The gospel lesson is printed in the song sheet this morning. This is the Good News translation from Matthew chapter 4. Then the Spirit led Jesus into the desert to be tempted by the devil. And after spending 40 days and nights without food, Jesus was hungry. The devil came to him and said, "If you are God's son, order these stones to turn into bread." Jesus answered, "The scripture says, man cannot live on bread alone, but on every word that God speaks." And then the devil took Jesus to the holy city and set him on the highest point of the temple and said to him, "If you are God's son, throw yourself down to the ground. Because the scripture says, God will give orders to his angels about you. They will hold you up with their hands so that not even your feet will be hurt on the stones." Jesus answered, "But the scripture also says you must not put the Lord your God to the test." And then the devil took Jesus to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world in all their greatness. "All this I will give you," the devil said, "if you kneel down and worship me." And then Jesus answered, "Go away, Satan. The scripture says, worship the Lord your God and serve only him." And then the devil left him, and the angels came and helped Jesus. Here ends the gospel lesson. A woman by the name of Sarah Maitland wrote this paragraph in her book, A Big Enough God. The spell check program on my word processor, which I have to say is both pagan and right-wing, does not care for the word sacred. Every time I ran this text through the program, it wanted to change the word sacred to the word scared. I know that feeling. I have it. Everyone in the Bible has it. They are always sore afraid when they encounter the sacred. The Ark of the Covenant, the burning bush, the angelic messenger, the authentic dream. In many societies, the act of making something sacred also simultaneously makes it dangerous. You may not touch it, name it, look at it, represent it. There is a fear and a respect. The proper word is awe. The sacred is awful. It is full of awe. Since the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, there is nothing much wrong. Indeed, there is rather a lot right with this feeling, with reminding ourselves of the grandeur, the otherness of God, along with the tenderness and the generosity. Changing the word sacred into the word scared. When I read this paragraph from Sarah, I thought about the fact that so often we avoid what is sacred. This word sacred does bring awful kinds of thoughts to us sometimes. We avoid the sacred in things of everyday life quite often. Sometimes a simple greeting or a touch of the hand or saying "I love you" at an unexpected time makes that everyday life sacred for a moment. Or when you're looking through the picture album and you see a picture of someone and the memories flow back to you, someone who is gone now, you realize how sacred their life was. We see the sacred in the relationships around us, but our relationships are on the same fast pace or the ordinary pace or the routine that so much of our life is on. And in our work, our talents and our thoughts and our ideas and our commitments, those are really sacred things. And the things that you spend your time and energy on should be things that have some sacredness in them, and you know that. I remember in parent training always saying to parents, you know, the kids know what you love because it's what you spend your time on. And that's how they can tell. And so the parent who's up early in the morning and off to work and home late, sometimes when the children are already in bed, has to ask the question, what do my kids think I love? If I asked my kid, what is sacred to daddy or to mom or to grandma? the kid would know based on the time that we spend. There's a temptation to be scared of the sacred in this life, I think, and I think it's a strong temptation. And that leads to the gospel story and the temptations of Jesus. The devil says to Jesus, if you are the Son of God, turn these stones to bread. Be relevant. Plan your work and work your plan are some of the things that I would connect to this. In itself, not a bad idea, but it's not the sum and substance of life. And take care of yourself and yours, meaning your family first. A lot of this family values talk that we hear, not only from religious people, but also from politicians. A lot of that family value stuff is a call to be selfish. First, take care of the people around you. And that phrase, charity begins at home. One person at a party once said to me, that's my favorite scripture. Charity begins at home. I said, that's not in the Bible. I said it much more nicely, gently. I said, that's not in the Bible. We live with that. That's our temptation. Charity begins at home. And in fact, when mission studies are done and we talk about our charity and what is relevant, quite often our charity doesn't really solve any problems. It just throws out a lot of Band-Aids. Quite frankly, that basket of food, which we are very dedicated in bringing, will never solve a lot of problems. It's going to solve hunger for 1 meal or 2 meals or 8 meals. But the systemic causes of its constant loss of the ability to make a living and have a good life, we don't change those things with that. It's important for us to give so that people will have some food, yes. But there's more work that is to be done. Someday I'm going to share with you, there's a mission study chart, and there's 4 levels of involvement in mission. And the first level for problems of hunger is giving the food. There's 3 more levels. Now, we are engaged in some of that. But we have to remember to be clear about what are we actually doing here. We have turned some stones to bread, but we haven't always worked hard enough to solve some of the deep, terrible problems. And stones to bread brings to mind the idea that, oh, the world is a tough place. You have to be prepared. You have to use your own instincts about survival. And survival is a strong instinct and is good reason to be relevant. But there's nothing more relevant than serving humanity, in God's eyes at least. Because something in every human being is sacred. And it's beyond all the plans and all the agenda. And so often the unplanned things and the interruptions and the distractions are really the mission from God. They speak for God. They speak of the sacred, and yet they're not in our plans. And quite frankly, sometimes we turn bread, the bread of our souls, into stone by not paying attention. I've been in the ministry a long time, and I've always been amazed at ministers who close their door to the office. They'll be in the office, they'll be working in the office, they'll be on the phone, but the door is closed, always. I worked with an associate one time, and I said, try leaving your door open just one day. Just leave your door open one day. A lot of traffic going by between our 2 offices. Just leave the door open for one day. You know what he said to me? Oh, too many distractions. Too many distractions. Like Katie and Bob and Jan and Zach. Those are all distractions. If I leave the door open, you may walk in. I got things to do. See, that's the bread, which quite frankly sometimes he turned into stone.